Hi everyone, welcome to Corporate Review. I'm your host, Ara Tapuzian, the City of Novi's Economic Development Director. Today we've got a great show in store for you. Ted Kawashia, who is the president of JAPIA here in southeastern Michigan. Ted, always a pleasure to come and see you. This is your inner sanctum, and why don't we go take a walk and we could talk a little bit more about what you do.
Come on in.
So Ted, you're rarely in this office, so we're going to be in the inner sanctum a little bit. You're always on the road.
Yeah, almost all the time. I spend about 4 or 5 days a month in here.
Okay, well let's sit and chat.
All right.
Well, Ted, thank you for bringing me back here to your office.
Have a seat.
Got a lot of paperwork here on there, so.
Yeah. Look, I'm busy.
Well, you're very busy. You're very busy. So when we were outside, we just talked about what the acronym of JAPIA is, but give me a little bit more in depth on JAPIA. I mean, it's you're here in an Ameris Center in Novi, sort of unassuming. I didn't really know who you were until a couple of years back, and I think JAPIA is a very interesting organization. Talk to me about it.
Well, JAPIA is in short of the Japan Auto Parts Industries Association. It's Automotive Suppliers Trade Association in Japan. Majority of them, of course, Japanese companies, but we have also American companies and European companies, some Asian companies too.
Okay.
So if you have an operation or even sales office in Japan, you could be a member.
How big is the organization?
We have about 450 member companies, and out of 450, about 300 are operating in North America, which is my territory.
Okay, and how many of those in the southeastern Michigan area?
About 50, 55.
Okay, and how long have you been doing this?
This is my 9th year.
Wow, and what did you do before this?
I was an engineer and manager of one of the Japanese supplier companies, and I came to Michigan in 1989.
And JAPIA, how long has it been in existence?
JAPIA's been around since the 1930s.
Okay.
Even before Japanese automotive industry got its whole form.
Okay.
And it's changed its name to Japan Auto Parts Industry Association on 2nd day of January 1965, I think.
Okay. And so what was the reason for the founding of this organization? What was the purpose?
That was mainly formed originally rather political purposes, just like the ones in the States or in Europe. But it became more of the active organization for co-developing new technologies amongst the suppliers and working beyond their business relationship with their customers, which is OEMs.
Okay. Give me an example. So the organization back in the 30s, I'm assuming it was a lot different than it is now. The function of it, or
back in 1930s, 40s, Japan before the World War II, of course, was very industrialized.
Okay.
And when the industry was beginning, there were small companies, small shops popping up here and there, here and there. So they were working very hard to be a part of the new industries.
Okay.
But just one company can do only so much. So one company meet another, and they meet another company, and gradually they form their own organization.
Okay. And so back in the 30s and 40s, and let's, even to the 50s or 60s.
I wasn't born there, though.
Well, I know. From what you read. From what you read. What types of things, though, would the organization do for the companies? What was the advantage for
being a member?
For being a member, yeah.
That's a tough question.
Shouldn't be. You're running the organization.
I'm not the salesman. The first advantage you being a member of this type of the organization is you don't have to play alone.
Okay.
And that means any industry could be the same, but especially the automotive industry is not just the building a car or making a part.
Right.
As you may already know, a car is made of millions of different technologies.
Right.
And you might not be the expert on everything.
Okay.
But as a group, as a whole, you could be.
Okay. So, talk about the automotive industry and how that's. You and I had a conversation a while back of how it's changed, how the Japanese auto companies, how they've interacted in the United States now, but the difficulty maybe, I don't know, 20, 25 years ago. How's that relationship changed?
It changed twice probably.
Okay.
When Japanese automotive industry was growing and growing fast back in the 80s.
Right.
First of all, in the 70s was the first wave of Japanese automotive industry grew, of course, back in Japan.
Okay.
And as a small company, small market, one of the things they did was started exporting the vehicles. And the biggest market was the United States.
Right.
And after that, they started building cars in the United States, which started early 80s. Honda came to Ohio, and Toyota and Nissan came to Kentucky and Tennessee accordingly. Then supplier followed.
Mm-hmm.
That time, Japanese vehicle in the United States was only representing probably less than 15%.
Okay.
It was not a big part of the industry.
Right.
When it became like 20%, it became a little bit difficult for Japanese to play along.
How so?
Well, when you are very small,
Right.
you are, say, you're going to get pat on your shoulder because you're doing well.
Right.
But you become too big, you become threat.
Okay.
And when we came to Michigan back in the 80s, atmosphere was not necessarily nice.
Right.
And although we didn't have anything against the United States, let me give you one example. One of the funniest questions I've got almost first week I came to Michigan. That's when Toyota, Honda, Nissan were already selling nice cars in the United States. A lot of the Americans came to ask me the questions of, Ted, how can you guys, Japanese, make such a nice cars or nice parts?
Right.
And my answer was always, I think we learn everything from you.
Right. Okay.
That was a very funny question, which we didn't know. And soon we realized we're a big part of the big global industries.
Absolutely.
But nobody, even Americans, understood the automotive being global until late 1990s.
Sure.
And when 21st century came, when Japanese OEMs or the vehicles represent 35% of this market, we became, I think, a part of the industry. And that's when you started seeing many Japanese coming to this country.
Right.
Especially in Michigan. And before we know it, Novi has become the biggest Japanese community.
That's right. Why here? Why do you suppose why do folks from Japan come to Novi?
Somehow some small group of the people came and lived and spread the word. Hey, this is a good city for us to live.
Right.
Because you weren't in Japan,
right,
trying to sell the pitch, and I think it happened naturally.
Sure.
Because Michigan alone has a little over 10,000 Japanese.
Right.
And 25% of them live in Novi.
Yeah, it's amazing.
That says something.
Yeah, and those numbers weren't there 10, 15 years ago, certainly. You know, you talked about the global presence of the Japanese auto industry, and I think that's a real good comment to make, because I think, myself included, everybody only said the big three: GM, Ford, Chrysler, and I don't think we thought not only Japanese but German and other countries that had vehicles. I don't think we looked at any of that. I think we just said, well, the big three must be the American, and that's really changed. I mean, the vehicles in general have gotten to be a lot better. So does that make your life easier for the organization, or a little bit harder How is that? How has that evolved?
The more global the industry becomes,
Right.
in a way, easier it gets for us.
Right.
Because everybody competes.
More acceptable.
Oh, everybody competes everywhere.
Right. And so how have you seen that change as far as the automotive supplier side of things? Are there more suppliers that are being formed? Are they stronger?
Well, after this past 3 years recession, so to speak, a lot of the suppliers disappeared.
Right.
And I would say the stronger ones survive, and stronger one will survive.
Right.
It's going to be more of the consolidations and more of the competitions. New companies come on, and some companies disappear.
So are you still helping Ted to connect the dots for the suppliers? You once told me that you'll do you'll pretty much help them with all their needs that they may not. Maybe it's helping with passports or visas, even for the family. Is that part of it as well?
If it's necessary.
If it's nationally, okay.
Most of the Japanese live in the United States for 3 to 4, maybe 5 years.
Okay.
And they're not immigrant, they are expatriates.
Right.
So they come here with the assignment, and when assignment or program is complete, they go home.
Right.
That is good for the family. On the other hand, that's going to be tough on the family.
Sure.
Because you are always dealing with the newcomers.
Yeah.
And imagine yourself living in Tokyo without any translator.
Right.
And nobody speaks English.
Right.
That is what's happening here. So in the beginning of their life in the United States is the most important, I think, that the period of time that I could help, so that I could make their life a little bit easier.
Sure.
So that they could do a little bit better job.
Right.
And they could tell their colleagues back in Japan, hey, I had a great time in the United States. Well, that's my goal.
Yeah. Well, I think you do a good job of that because certainly we've run into a lot of, for example, the CLARE program and the JETRO program, which I'm going to ask you a little bit about, but most of, if not all, the Japanese officials that have stayed here 3 to 5 years, there's a good number of them that just don't want to go back. They want to stay somewhere in the United States, but they they're not always able to do that. Talk to me about your involvement with the JETRO program. Maybe tell folks what that means and why is that important for you to be involved in that?
JETRO is another Japanese government organization called the Japan External Trade Organization.
Right.
And since, as you see, I'm the only one-man show here, JETRO Chicago takes care of this automotive and other industries. And we came up with this idea about 6 years ago to offer an opportunity to both Japanese and Americans to participate, to understand each other better. Mm-hmm. Because I've been in the States for 24 years.
Right.
And I worked for the Japanese company for 15 years before I took this job. So Japanese automotive community has been around for about 30 years. We still don't understand each other. It's a shame.
Yeah.
Well, somebody has to offer a place for both sides of the fence to communicate each other and understand better. And we often think about this relationship as better or worse. And it's actually not better or worse. It's actually the difference.
Okay.
We're trying to understand.
So when you talk about understanding, what do you mean by that, though, as far as understanding each other? You're not talking of a language barrier.
Oftentimes, people, if you're not familiar enough with the automotive industries,
right,
people may think making the cars in Japan or in the United States and Europe are all the same. Truth is, it's all different. Okay. Everybody makes the car in a different way.
Right.
And oftentimes it's compared as better or worse.
Right.
And I don't think anybody would even think about like Toyota Prius in the United States.
Right.
But I don't think anybody in Japan would ever thought about F-150.
Sure.
And
okay.
each of those symbolic vehicles are made in each country.
Right.
in a great way. And it's difference.
Okay.
But oftentimes you try to compare those two different vehicles.
Right.
And that is what I and Jetro are trying to come up with as an event, which I think you have been one of those.
Yep.
And we call that the monozukuri event.
Right.
Monozukuri in Japanese means making stuff, or producing or manufacturing. And each country or each nation, I would say, has different way of making things, even if it's a car, or maybe the computers, anything.
Right.
By showing each other the way they each does the work, we could get a better understanding. And that is the beginning of the better relationship.
Sure.
Because nowadays, American companies, Japanese companies, European companies, you're going to have to work all together.
Right.
In the global market.
Oh, absolutely. In order just to survive. There seems to be more of that these days than there was, in years back. Talk about that event that I was at many months back, that you talked of the devastating earthquake that hit Japan. And I guess my takeaway from that was absolutely amazement on how quickly the Japanese people, the businesses really rebounded from all of that. How has that, that's certainly affected the automotive supply chain. How did that affect it? To what extent did that affect the automotive market, and what is it like now?
I would say the automotive production has come back.
Okay.
Within less than a year, which was amazing.
Yeah.
I was proud of their comeback. But you can't forget how it started. The recovery started second day after the tsunami and earthquake hit. But the first thing that happened, even before Japanese stood up, that was the American 7th Fleet, there in the ocean.
Sure.
And without those help, nothing began.
Right.
In last year's Monozukuri seminar, well, about 6 months before that, we were talking about the new plan of this year's Monozukuri seminar with Jetro in Chicago. And we're thinking about, let's go down to Nashville, or let's go down to Atlanta, Georgia to do this and to do that. And then earthquake hit.
Right.
And we stopped talking about this event. We couldn't. But as we saw the recovery, and as you heard it at the event, those companies started production in like 6 days and 7 days.
Right.
And 3 months later, they were back to mass production. And they couldn't do it without the help from Americans. And we thought we had to do it here in Novi, where most of the Japanese live, and to talk to Americans. Yeah, we've done a great job recovering from the disaster, but we didn't do it alone, and we couldn't do it alone. Right. And that's show you came.
Yeah. Yeah, it was quite amazing. One of the things, the other takeaway though that I had was, to what fashion, that it came back, in the sense that if something like that happened here, I don't know how quick everybody would be. There was a stoic look, as far as we've got to rebuild. You didn't see people screaming in the streets and crying everywhere. There was okay, we've got to rebound. We've got to do it very quickly, and I found that absolutely amazing. Ted, talk to me a little bit before we wrap up of where do you see the organization going from this point forward, next 5-10 years? Where do you see JAPIA?
Automotive industry in worldwide, not just the Japanese automotive industry, but American and European. Right. Becoming global, meaning not only building cars all over the world, but it's consistently finding a new market. Right. And you see Mexico growing, and you see Brazil growing,
Right.
Of course, you see China, India, Russia,
Sure.
and even African countries. They have become a new market for the vehicles. But each region has different tastes, different market. So you need many different vehicles
Right.
built in many different regions. So JAPIA being a Japanese organization does not mean we're going to be just here.
Right.
We could be all over the world. So are the Americans.
Right. Okay. And again, you've been here, you said 24, 25 years, and you're a musician on the side a little bit. What they can't see are all the little guitar things too. So you keep quite active in the community. What would be your final message to the automotive market in Detroit as far as succeeding and more connections?
I think no matter how you see it, Detroit is still the core of the automotive industries.
Right.
And yes, market is growing. Market is going all over the world. But what car you gonna make and sell? Those decisions are still made in here.
Yeah.
So if you want to be the part of it, you should come around and you should be here.
Great. Ted, if people want to have more information on JAPIA, is there a website they can go to check that out?
Yes, it's www.jpa.or.jp.
Terrific. Thank you, Ted, for allowing us to come over and chat with you for a little bit.
Okay.
That's about all the time that we have today. For more information on the City of Novi's economic development, goals and strategies, and all the good stuff that we do here in Novi, Michigan, please check us out on the web, investnovi.org. Until next time, take care.